All right, folks, we are back, and we are black. Yes, we are. 7:36 in the PM here on Friday, July the 26th, 2024. Hope you enjoyed the Chuck Jackson, but unfortunately, there are more serious things going on in the world right now. Something that we keep having to be confronted with is the looming specter of police brutality. So now there's been another shooting of another black person, this time another black woman. Sonya Massey, 36 years old, was killed on July the 6th by Sean Grayson, an Illinois sheriff's deputy, in her home in Springfield, Illinois, which is the state capital. Massey, who was confirmed by her daughter to be a paranoid schizophrenic, had called the police because she thought someone was trying to break into her home. And when the police arrived, they began looking into Massey's home with flashlights. A neighbor named Cheryl Evans told the UK Guardian. Evans wondered why the police had not knocked on her door, as they typically have done in the past when searching for suspects. Eventually, Grayson, who is white, and his partner entered the home, where they began to speak to Miss Sonya Massey. After an initial discussion and request for Massey's driver's license, Grayson spotted a pot of boiling water on the stove and ordered Massey to remove it, to avoid starting a fire. In doing so, Massey asked the officer, who is visibly distanced themselves from her as she goes to handle the pot, while they moved away from her. With his gun drawn, Grayson closed the distance between himself and Massey, who was beginning to kneel behind a counter with her hands up. At this point, Grayson says, "You better bleeping not, or I swear to God, I'll bleeping shoot you right in your bleeping face," Grayson warned. Massey can be heard saying, "I'm sorry." And if you watch the video, you can see her crouching in fear. She's saying, "I'm sorry." Grayson continues to advance, and she says, "I'm sorry" again, as Grayson fires 3 shots, striking her with a bullet below the eye that exited from the back of her neck. Just out and out brutal. Just a horrific, tragic situation. So as she lay dying on the floor, Grayson at this point says he'll go get his medical kit to render, the other officer said that he'll go get the medical kit to render aid. Grayson says that's a headshot, she's done. As the pair stands there with their guns drawn, Grayson says, "I'm not taking a bullet out of her bleeping head," and then points out that the water from the pot had reached his feet. "What else can we do?" he asks his partner. "I'm not taking hot boiling water to the bleeping face." Grayson's partner tends to Massey and at one point says she's still gasping and wonders what's taking Grayson so long with the medical kit. When paramedics and other officers arrive, one can be heard asking, "Where's the gun?" Grayson then replies that Massey had a pot of boiling water and threatened to rebuke him in the name of Jesus. Paramedics took her to a nearby hospital where she was pronounced dead. This goes to show you once again that what Barack Obama said was crap. Okay, there indeed is 2 Americas. "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus" is not a reason to shoot somebody in a black community. If we did that, like, half of our teachers would be dead, half of our grandmothers would be dead, half of our mamas would be dead. "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus" is standard black grandmother talk. Like, that's literally standard black grandmother talk. Grayson has been arrested and charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder and is being held without bond until his trial is set to begin. It is exceedingly rare for police officers to be charged with the murder in the death of a citizen and has not occurred in such a high-profile case since George Floyd in 2020. I mean, again, this shooting is just so much a reason that we need to reform. We need significant police reform. You know, these are the types of things that I keep telling you guys. And again, the late great Jonathan Booth, when me and him were on the radio together, he used to always say, get something for your vote. Get something for your vote. You have not asked Kamala or Joe Biden, when he was still running, anything about the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. No promises have been made with that. He just gave up on it. He actually had a police oversight committee that he disbanded as soon as he got in office. And nobody held him accountable. None of the black leaders, there was no swell of the black community saying, why did you disband the police oversight commission? He said, well, you know, look, we're focusing on the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, and gave up immediately as soon as there was any Republican resistance to the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. I wish I could have been able to get to the Civil Rights Act segment a few weeks ago. I ran out of time talking about Joe Biden for over an hour. But LBJ had to do a lot to get the Civil Rights and Voting Rights Act. He didn't just wave a wand and say, oh, well, you know, we got the votes, let's do it. He had to cajole. He had to threaten people to get the Civil Rights Act passed. Don't tell me what these politicians can't do when you put pressure on them. They find ways to get money to Ukraine and Israel. Even when 70-80% of the public is against giving more money to Israel or Ukraine, they find ways to give money to Israel and Ukraine. But they can't do anything about police brutality? They can't end qualified immunity? They can't do that. He's not God, he's the president. Tell that to LBJ and FDR. Please, I'd like you to. This is why we need that significant police reform. This is why we need an end to qualified immunity. This is why black people have to get together and press these candidates and say, I'm not voting for you unless you do this. Now, Jill Stein supports all that stuff. That's why I support her. Her, Cornel West, those types of candidates, they support police reform. But the mainstream candidates, the Biden or the now Harris and the Trumps, where are they at on this? And why would any black person in their right mind who's upset about Sonya Massey or upset about George Floyd or upset about Michael Brown or upset about Rodney King or upset about Sean Bell or upset about Abner Louima or upset about Amadou Diallo ever vote for these people if they are not serious about promising to fight? Fight, not just throw it up there. Well, maybe we should do something. No. If you are not going to fight for ending qualified immunity or fight for the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act or any of these things that our community actually needs, not wants, needs, if we are going to continue to live and function in the United States of America, you should not get a single black vote. I'm sorry. But we've been encouraged to give up our vote for nothing. You just don't get Trump. That's it. Well, you know, Trump is Hitler, so you should just be happy to not have Trump. No. If you do not give me this, I'm not voting for you. I am not supporting you. We have to stop selling ourselves so cheap, folks. We really do. Or this is just going to keep happening. This man worked for 6 agencies in 4 years. His career included short stints as a part-time police officer at 3 small police departments and a full-time job at a 4th department, as well as working full-time at 2 sheriff's offices in central Illinois. Now, the family of Sonya Massey, they are actually starting to push. They want Congress to approve the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, both of which U.S. House Democrats approved before the legislation died in the Senate, because, again, there was no real push to push it through in the Senate, especially when the Democrats had the Senate, basically, because Kamala Harris was the vote, was the could break the vote. And the Democrats could have absolutely changed the filibuster to fight for things like the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act or the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. You're upset about the Supreme Court? Joe Biden could have packed the Supreme Court if he wanted to. He just didn't feel like doing it. Now, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act would crack down on police misconduct, excessive force, and racial bias in law enforcement, while the Voting Rights Act would require local jurisdictions to seek federal approval before changing voting laws. Now, this was absolutely heartbreaking. Her father, James Wilburn, was on CBS Mornings talking about the death of his daughter, how his daughter was murdered. I think this is very important right here. This is very important.
I was never told that it was a deputy-involved shooting. We were under the impression that she was killed by the intruder or some other person from the street or something, and they just went in there and found her dead body. I did not find out that the deputies killed her until my brother asked for Sonya's address, and I gave it to him. And he said, "Brother, this says deputies involved." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" But we were all misled to believe that. And then there was a story that this was self-inflicted, a self-inflicted gunshot.
Oh my goodness.
So I think the cover-up started from just right after it happened. And thank God for the body camera footage. It's probably the most horrible and heart-wrenching thing that we've ever seen in our lives. But if it were not for the body cam footage, we would not have known that this occurred.
She had said to the officer, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus," which seemed to set him off. What do you think she meant? What does that mean? What was going on that you think that she would say those words to him?
I think that she feared for her life. There was some premonition that she had. And it seems like he was just an emissary of Satan. And that's what caused him to do what he did. It's just unexplainable.
Yeah.
Good God. I mean, I could not imagine the pain that man is going through right now. They lied. Her son actually talked about this as well. This is how you know they were wrong. They lied. They lied about how she died. They told this woman's family that her wounds were self-inflicted. And then they made it seem like an intruder killed her. So why lie? If you're that sure that she was going to throw the pot of boiling water on you, and why didn't the police officer turn off the pot himself? He could have easily gone over to the stove, because he told her to go over to the stove. They were sitting on the couch. I don't know if you actually want to watch the footage. I did, because I take this very seriously. But she was sitting on the couch. He said, "You got something on the stove over there, turn it off." Why didn't he go and turn it off if he was that afraid of her throwing boiling hot water on him? And also, I know this might be a little controversial, but if you were going to be a police officer and you were that jumpy and that fearful of somebody that you have to plug them with a bunch of bullets if they're holding a pot of boiling water, then you shouldn't be a cop. You should not be a cop. Now, if somebody's got an AK-47, they got an AR-15, they're driving their car, they're about to run over you with their car, they got a giant sword or something, I understand. I understand you might have to shoot somebody. But still, your first instinct should be to defuse the situation. Diffuse the situation. And this goes back to what I talked about some years ago. Me and Reverend Delwyn Campbell did the story about how American cops are only trained for 500 hours. You only got to have a high school education and 500 hours of training to be a cop. That's it. In Canada, it's 1,000. You gotta train for twice as long to be a police officer in Canada than you do in the United States. Now tell me how that makes sense. How does that make sense? It makes no sense whatsoever. So Joe Biden spoke out on Monday and said, after the death of Sonya Massey, he said that she should still be alive today. Kamala Harris said that Sonya Massey deserved to be safe. Once again, these people say lots of things. They say a whole lot. What are they doing? What are they doing to earn your vote? When this happens over and over and over again, what are they doing? And those of you, I know there's a few of you out there who gonna vote for Donald Trump. What is Donald Trump doing? Again, why would you vote for any of these people? Republicans, Democrats. I don't care if it's the Bull Moose Party, the Federalist Party, the Whig Party. Why would you vote for anybody who doesn't have a black agenda that has a solution to stuff like this in it? Lesser of two evils is just a trap. It is a trap to make sure that we never mobilize and get what we deserve here in this country. I am absolutely disgusted by this story, and I am so sorry that Sonya Massey is not going to be able to be here to see her children grow up. And you know, she did not deserve what happened to her, y'all. She really did. She really did not.